Real Talk disclaimer. The information provided by the host on this platform is for education and awareness purposes only. All information provided on this platform is provided in good faith. We make no representation or warranty of any kind, express or implied, regarding the accuracy, validity, and reliability of information shared by the host or show guests. The views and opinions of guests on the show do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the host of Real Talk. Under no circumstances do the host, show guests, sponsors, or affiliates assume responsibility for the actions of any viewer.
Welcome to Real Talk. We're so glad to have all of you to join us on tonight. We are here again every Thursday. We're here at 6:15. That's right, 6:15. We're so glad to have all of you join us. Go ahead and share on your page. We're going to dive into a very important some information we're going to share with you on tonight. Hello, Miss Katrina Davis. Before we tell you the platforms we are sharing on, I want to speak to my beautiful, lovely co-host, Bishop.
You are so kind.
Everybody go ahead and flood the timeline with hearts and just a lot of love to Bishop T, my beautiful co-host. Couldn't do it without her.
You are so kind.
We're a great team together. Okay, so let's share the different platforms that we're on. Of course, you can dial into the conference call, which is 1-646-224-5980. That PIN number is 334-1980. If you can't get in on the conference call line, or you desire to look at us on our show, join us for Facebook Live. That's right, Facebook Live. We have a Facebook Live page. It's Real Talk with Pastor Z and Bishop T. You can also join us on YouTube with Real Talk with Pastor Z and Bishop T. We also have a Twitter page. That's right, a Twitter page. You can follow us there at R Talk with Z and T, at R Talk with Z _T. And so we are excited about today's program. Come to bring you great information and real information. That's right. Good evening, Miss Loretta Jenkins. Watching from South Carolina. How about that? Glad to have you to join us. Hello, Miss Sharon Green. Hello, glad to have you. Today we want to bring on our superintendent of the Gaston City School System, none other than Mr. Tony Reddick. Let's everyone welcome him on Real Talk once again. He's back. It's Mr. Tony Reddick. How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing well, thank you. I'm going to hopefully see if I can get you a little bit more light, get a little bit better view than last time we were on. I think I was operating from a smaller device. I didn't lighten the room, couldn't lighten the room anymore. I wish I had the great lights that y'all have there.
Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you for actually coming on our show in such a short notice. We realize you've been very busy on today. We brought you on because we felt like there may be a lot of news traveling, may
Mm-hmm.
not be real news, but a lot of news traveling. And we wanted to hear it from our fierce leader of
Yeah.
the Superintendent Sunday School, who will have more information and to actually give the parents and children, as well as faculty and staff,
Yeah.
some type of confidence that we have everything under control. So today,
Yeah.
this morning, we got one of the worst call that we ever want to hear from our school. And we know that summer camps are taking place, and here's what we get.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's flooding Facebook. Is text messages are going out, phone calls, people are running, trying to check on their child. When they said Walnut Park, of course, I'm on the school board there at the Gadsden City School, and the first thing I'm 30 minutes away. I'm in Anniston, and of course, I said that's one of our elementary schools. I got
Yeah.
people run up to me, show me their phones. I'm making phone calls. I called Bishop T. Of course, Bishop T was very concerned. She has a great niece, I believe, that she tends to, and she immediately went to dialing, calling people. So we want to bring you on, Mr. Reddick, to share with us what actually took place on this morning.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share. You know, when incidents like this occur, you get bombarded by national and local news. Worse than that, I guess you get some misinformation and some good information on some of our local news, which is what I refer to as social media here. And naturally, parents are going to be in shock about seeing a headline like that. But I can tell the community of Gadsden that you would be very proud of how our staff handled this situation, both the school staff as well as the local law enforcement. Unfortunately, this morning there was a young man. I don't know his age, but a young man who made an attempt to get inside of the Walnut Park Elementary School. When he was first observed, it was observed that he seemed to be maybe under the influence. He was shirtless and just really out of sorts. He was first observed trying to get into a police car. Our SRO's car was located outside the building. When he was unable to do that, he started trying to get inside of the school building. He went to at least 2 doors, but I think it's reported at least 3 doors. Wherever he could find a door, he was trying to get in. Our principal, Kristen Woods, did see him at the door, but realized he was not somebody who needed to be there. He didn't look like a parent she was familiar with, nor a community member she was familiar with. And so she immediately contacted the SRO. Now, normally if someone is supposed to be at that school, they would ring the bell. And then we would address them by way of an intercom to see if we could help them and generally serve them from outside the building. She thought he looked a little suspicious, so she contacted the SRO. The SRO came from wherever he was located in the building at the time, went outside to confront the young man, and the young man began to, fight with the SRO, wrestle with the SRO. Backup was apparently called slightly in advance after they engaged a little bit. And it's my understanding that, he had to tase, the SRO had to tase the young man. And again, hopefully none of the information that I got conflicts with what's already been said, but, you hear the story over and over. And so when the second officer, Gadsden police officer arrived, it turns out that he too either had to tase the gentleman or he was tased again by the SRO. An altercation ensued between the SRO again and this gentleman, this young man. And at which point the young man tried to pull the SRO's revolver from his holster. At that point, the Gadsden police officer had no choice but to use his weapon, which he did. I got the call a little after 10 o'clock from Principal Kristen Woods, who was irate. I mean, I'm not irate, but just distraught. And all I could make out from her was someone was trying to get in the building. And so I immediately got in my car and rushed over to Walnut Park, thinking, worst case is I'm going to, because she was crying. So I knew it was something serious. It couldn't have just been any old somebody, but that maybe I'd have to confront whoever the intruder was. Which is my duty, I guess, after calling for backup. But I got there and the place was surrounded by emergency vehicles, police, fire, you name it, everybody was there. And unfortunately, as I approached, I could see the young man who was down. I didn't know whether he was alive or dead at the time. However, when one of the local officers approached me, he explained to me what had just transpired. Explained it to me pretty much the way I just shared with you, and said that they had to take the guy out. They had to shoot him. And I think what's important for a lot of people to understand, although I'm not as big a proponent of it because I'm not a law enforcement officer, and therefore I haven't developed the appreciation for it. But our officer trained to, if you're going to pull your weapon, you don't just wound them. I guess it's shoot to kill kind of a thing. And I think in this particular case, this was a situation where if that gentleman had gotten a hold to the other officer's weapon, it could have been someone else. We have no motive or anything like that in order, to determine why he was there. If he was indeed under the influence, chances are he saw an opportunity maybe to get inside of a building, to get out of the heat, to maybe we don't know, can't really speculate about that. We just know it wasn't somebody who needed to be there. And so everyone did exactly what they had been trained to do, from our school principal to our teachers to our students, did what they were supposed to do, law enforcement, what they were supposed to do. The great thing, of course, is that none of the students at the school, even now as we speak, unless they've seen the news, knows what happened today. Because once that person was identified as one who did not belong in the building, but who was trying to get inside the building, of course, we keep all of our doors locked at our schools. And since COVID, we always addressed individuals outside of the building anyway. So if you belong there, you would know to ring the bell and wait for someone to answer and buzz you in, or you have a key fob to let yourself in. So that protocol was observed. In addition to that, the principal made sure that the kids were on initially a soft lockdown, and they were in another portion of the building, so there were no kids seen even by me when I got there. We had a few teachers who actually observed what happened. They're probably a little bit traumatized even today because they saw the actual incident occur. They were curious too as to why someone was lurking around the building. Of course, Principal Wood said, "Hey, you guys get away from that window," but it was too late for them to get away by the time they saw what they did. We even had one of our staff members who was outside of the building with the gentleman who was there, and he didn't get to see her. She was at a third door, probably after he had left that door and trying to get into two other doors. What I love about today is everybody responded as expediently as they possibly could. Again, from law enforcement to hopefully, I got there in a reasonable enough time as well. To comfort the principal and the other teachers who happened to have been in the building, and especially the two who witnessed it. And my first concern, obviously, was, where are the kids? Were they exposed to any of this? As y'all all know, due to the Literacy Act, we have literacy camps at our elementary schools. And there were 34 kids present today. They were in another part of the building carrying on with their, daily activities, and therefore, as I said, we're not even aware about what was going on in the front of the building. I think that, and I will say that there was one parent who was approaching the building because she knew she had a child inside of the building, and I don't think it's unusual for parents to see a line of emergency vehicles and immediately think the worst. And so, I commend that parent for accepting our invitation to just waited out, and we informed her that all of her kids are fine. All the kids were fine. We immediately went into our safety protocol by contacting Woods Transportation to send a bus. Told them specifically where to park the bus behind the school building on California Street. Once that bus arrived, we loaded those kids onto the bus out of the site of the incident, triaged them, transported and triaged them at Gadsden City High School. Meanwhile, we had 3 to 4 staff members in the main office contacting parents personally. You can imagine what might have happened if we did like an all call or one of those things, and it would have been complete chaos. So each parent was contacted personally and told where they could pick their child up or their children up. Mrs. Allison Correll had done a great job all week doing safety drills. And so it was very easy for the kids to appreciate that they were just doing a safety drill. And they filed out single file, didn't ask any questions. I was fortunate enough to be there alongside them, just kind of, high-fiving and trying to keep them from thinking that there was anything wrong at all. They loaded the bus and got there. So within 20 minutes after their arrival, we had all 34 kids partnered with their parents. I took the liberty of asking the parents, first of all, telling the parents that the kids don't know what happened, and we would like to keep it that way if possible. Right. Sure enough, they were in agreement. Of course, I don't know what happened after they got in the car, but they were in agreement, and it's been a pretty, smooth day since then, with the exception, obviously, of having to answer some media calls and some interviews. But I think that the entire staff, everyone involved, did exactly what they've been trained to do. And I want to emphasize that, we promote school safety here. There were several questions about how, we manage it. I mean, we don't have that alert system at the other schools that we have at the high school, but this encourages us to try to make sure that we have have that same operation at all of our schools in the very near future. But we couldn't have asked for a better outcome as far as our kids, our students, and our staff is concerned. It's unfortunate for the young man that, his aggressiveness cost him his life. But we got through it pretty well.
That's well, number one is that we must protect our children.
Absolutely.
I had some people kind of inquire, did he have a weapon or did they have to go to the extreme? And I share with people, 1 second can make a difference into a whole lot of things going wrong. And with the way things are going nowadays, you really, it's like pretty much being an official in a ball game. You either got to make that call right then or don't make it at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
And only those people that are trained to make those calls are those that are trained to make those calls. And so, Mr. Reddick, I was happy to hear. I was sorry to hear that the young man lost his life, but I was happy to hear that no harm was done to our children, faculty, or staff. That we did have a system in place that works. As Bishop T oftentimes say, we got to be proactive.
Right.
And by y'all training or going through those training throughout the whole week, I believe it was it was necessary. Sometimes people don't realize they just wasting time, they ain't doing nothing, and you don't realize, sometimes these things become true and real, and you only have a split second to react one way or another. I'm just glad that that we did everything that we needed to do in order to protect those children. Shout out to Jay Wig. That's one of my homeboys in Birmingham is going to be coming on in the near future. Awesome job by all those involved. Thank you, Mr. Reddick.
Hey, Pastor, let me say,
Robinson.
Pastor, let me say this, in Nichols, this is real talk, and we
Right.
were involved in a real situation today. It's one thing to hear about it on the news when it happens in another neighborhood, another state, or whatever have you. Clearly, we're just fresh from the Uvalde, Texas situation. Anytime there's any potential intruder, is our understanding in regard to Uvalde that whatever precipitated that young man going to that school, he was able to get in a door that was unlocked or that was propped open. And we drill our principals and our students and teachers alike about not leaving any doors open. And in fact, and again, I'll give kudos to obviously Mrs. Kristen Woods, but Mr. Keith Blackwell, who literally practices going to schools, and I do the same thing, trying to get in. Now clearly we've got admission to the schools with our codes or our keys or whatever have you. But sometimes we just go up and just wiggle our finger and see if a kid will let us in. Kids in Gadsden City don't let you in the door. They don't let you in. They might look at you and they'll turn and go. Every experience I've had and every experience Keith has had, they turn and go the other way. And so clearly the principals have trained them as we have trained them to train the kids. And so we're grateful. Now, I will admit again, there were no kids involved in any of this situation. They never had to be involved at all. And that's, again, a testament to the principal who's seeing a potential situation, moved kids to a safer location. Now, they may well have already been in that newer building, but by the time I got to that location, they were all behind a closed and locked door. So, again, as you say, you don't know what will happen until you're in a situation like that. I praise God. I'm grateful that this assailant didn't have a weapon. But when people question, was it necessary? As I said, we're training our teachers and staff to provide a safety net for our students. Police officers are trained to protect and serve. And in cases like this, unfortunately, although a lot of us don't appreciate it until it happens to us, I guess.
Right.
It could have gone the other way. My understanding is the reason that the young man was fired on was because he was reaching for the other police officer's weapon. Now, other police officers got him down, both hands occupied. This guy obviously has hands free, and he's reaching for the other weapon. That.
When you under influence, Mr. Reddick, it's hard to maintain people under influence. I work as the correctional officer at the county jail for 3 years, and we had to go to training in Jacksonville, and we learned that when they under influence, they don't feel anything.
Not
even bullets. Until they bleed out. Joe Taylor said, "Great job by Rainbow City and Gadsden Police Department for dealing with a threat to our children." Conterior Williams said, "Thanks to all individuals that played a part in protecting our children today," and I kudos that. So proud of this district on today. Bishop T, I know this is very passionate to you. Anything you want to share or ask Mr. Reddick before we allow him to go?
First of all, to God be the glory.
Amen.
That's what I will say. To God be the glory. Second of all, thank God for the quick reaction of the principal, especially in such a time where the awareness and the attention is so heightened in this regard. So thank God for you and the plan that you've put out for the principals, the schools, and that they followed it. That's the big thing, because it's not real until it's real. But in order to be prepared when it's real, you've got to do those practice drills and everything. And so we are continuously praying, Mr. Reddick, for you. And I don't say that just to say that, because I said to Pastor Huff this morning, when I dropped our baby off, I said, I walked her in today. Usually when it's just regular school, you pull up, they get out. But I walked her to the door, and she wasn't feeling well, but I walked her to the door and I said, God, cover her and cover the rest of the children today. And so we can pray. Prayer is good, but thank you for making sure that our teachers, our principals, it's close to me because my first cousin is a principal as well. And so, but thank you for just making sure that the things are in place. And thanks to those teachers and all for just, uh, doing what they have to do to make sure that not only our children, but even those teachers, that everybody makes it back home
Yeah.
as safe as possible. So we are praying for you, and I know that it's been a strenuous day. So we pray that you will have rest this
Yeah.
evening, and that you'll be able to get some rest, as well as those teachers and all that are involved. So thank you
Yeah.
for the job well done, and all everybody involved as it's already going out. Just
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we have quite a few board members on. Adrian Reed, I saw her on. Miss Nancy Stewart is on as well, and they all saying they're proud of our faculty, staff, and superintendent for thank you for taking care of our children. Thank you for taking care of our kids. Gaston is trained in what to do. Kids and staff and it showed today. Thank God for the prompt awareness and for his covering.
Yeah.
Um, this is a testament to true leadership. Thank you, Mr. Reddick, Ms. Woods, faculty, staff, and law and enforcement. Our chairman of our board, Mr. Judge Milliken, is on. Hello, Judge. And Lacey Robinson said, "Great leader, Mr. Reddick." So we thank you so much, Mr. Reddick, and
Great.
for coming on and at a short notice of time, but and we wanted you to inform and talk to the people and let them know things are well. I know there are some things you was able to say here that you haven't said in the other news media. So you heard it on Real Talk
Yeah.
from our superintendent of our Gaston City School System, Mr. Tony Reddick. Thank you, Mr. Reddick.
Thank you, guys. I'm gonna go home and get a little rest.
Get some rest, okay?
Okay.
All right. All
All
right.
right.
All right. We want to thank Mr. Reddick for coming on today. We're going to go to our next guest in just a few seconds. We'll be right back.
Grace and peace to you, my friends. It's the little preacher. That's right. It's Pastor Tim of Tim and the Fellas. Guess what? I'm headed to Gaston, Alabama, Sunday, June 26th. That's right. The little preacher will be in Gaston, Alabama, Sunday, June 26th, with Pastor Shirley Caesar, the Leandria Johnson. That's right. Me, myself, Tim Rogers of Tim and the Fellas. Listen, do what's necessary to get into place. I look forward to seeing you there, Gaston, Alabama. Peace.
All right. There is a young lady that does a column every Sunday in our Gaston Times. She is the president of the NAACP. We want to welcome Miss Elaine Harris Spearman. Hello, Miss Spearman. How are you?
Good evening, sir. I'm very well. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on today. We wanted to talk to you for a few minutes about your column that you do a column every Sunday. It's posted in the Gaston Times, but there was a column that you posted most recently that says 2020 voters fraud lie drives election challenges. And so we wanted to give you an opportunity to come on and just share in your blog, your share in your column that you have shared with us, because we're noticing there are some people that are contesting uh, elections nowadays, and it's becoming more frequent now than ever. I remember making a statement just not too long ago, and I was accused of calling somebody Trump, but I only said that they pulled a Trump move, and that is actually to say that the election was stolen. So talk to us about your blog, if you don't mind your commentary.
Thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me on. I'm happy to be here to discuss whatever questions anyone has. And I do want to say, yes, I do write a commentary every Sunday for the Gadsden Times. And when I write this commentary, I was asked to do this, and it's been about a year now. I was asked to do it to offer another perspective in the opinion page, as opposed to the one that appears there every Sunday and has for a very long time. When I was asked to do this commentary, it was not from the perspective of a Democrat, a Republican, a liberal, a conservative, a president of the NAACP, or any other organization that I am involved in. But I happen to be the president of the NAACP, and I write this column, and I write it from my perspective because it
Mm-hmm.
is my opinion.
Right.
And this particular commentary was based upon my experience, my knowledge, my research and writing. As most people know, I am a lawyer and I have been involved in political campaigns and challenges for most of my career, which was in St. Louis, Missouri. I returned here in 2017 and became involved in many things. This particular column was written the day or two before the election because my column is due, all of the columns are due the Wednesday prior to the Sunday that it appears in the paper. So, as you can see, by the time one is finished, it is time for another. When I wrote this column, I was leaving for St. Louis, Missouri at 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. And I'm saying this to give you some perspective on the fact that this column was written before I knew the results of any races here except what had been televised very late Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
As I headed on a plane to St. Louis at 5 in the morning, I really did not know who most of the winners and losers were. I found out when I was on the ground in St. Louis. Now, that I'm saying to give you some framework because it
Okay.
couldn't have been solidly targeting any of the people who would ultimately challenge the election results. I had, of course, seen one of the gubernatorial candidates indicate right away that she was going to challenge the results because she believes that it's voter fraud based upon the election machines. Now, that is an age old story that we have heard time and time again since the 2020 elections. And really, she and several others were whom I had in mind when I said I believe that candidates such as the past president cannot accept losing. I
Mm-hmm.
stand by that
Mm-hmm.
because what I see more and more is just being used to challenge results that you don't like
Yeah.
because you did not prevail. You were not the winner. Now, nobody is dumb enough to believe that there aren't reasons for challenges for elections that may have to do with limiting voter access, limiting people's ability to cast their ballot in the place that is appropriate. So we know those are different grounds. I thus far, even as the president of the NAACP, have not been given any information, nor have I found anything that suggests that African Americans were denied access to the ballot, were unable to vote for the candidate of their choice, and were unable to exercise what this country stands on: one man, one vote. We all
Hmm.
know that. So the president of the Alabama State Conference of the NAACP did ask me to look into the matter prior to this past Wednesday. There's a Wednesday night meeting every week with the chairman of the NAACP for the state. There are about 40 to 50 people on representing chapters all across the state. I looked into the matter and was on the agenda the Wednesday before to give the president and the members, other members of the NAACP, the results of what I had found. There were a lot of questions because there are other places in Alabama where Republicans are challenging the results. The discussion among those chapter presidents and the president of the state was that this primarily involved white Republicans. They asked what challengeable elections occurred within District 28 and 29. I really did not know at the time, but once I heard the results, I indicated to the NAACP that the two persons involved were African American. Discussion ensued around that. There was no further instruction or allowance of me in the role as president of NAACP to interject or interfere because the community had spoken. There were two African Americans. And I think with the division in the community, people were on one side or the other, those who were eligible to vote. And it placed people, I think, in a hard place to select one over the other. Therefore, even other organizations did not endorse either, but allowed the voters to exercise their choice between the two African American candidates. So I did not hear the statement being made regarding me in my role as president of the NAACP, but I do take that very seriously, and I take what I have done as president of this organization for 2 terms. I take that seriously. We have done a great many things, much of which you don't hear. As I attended the last Juneteenth celebration here with an NAACP table there with information, hardly anyone showed up. I could count the African American people there on one hand practically. I spoke. There were more police officers there than there were people. So there are things to do. There are more things that need to be done. I wear a great many hats, but in my role as the president of the NAACP, that is not what my column represents. It
Hmm.
is my experience, my job. I've been in politics a long time, my whole career. And in fact, I flew back to St. Louis where I was inducted into the Bar Association's Legal Legends. So I really was not here the days following the election. The column was written before and really focused upon higher level offices not the ones local. There may be some of that present on the local level because people have taken to challenging and using the same kind of methods, as you said earlier, that we have seen on the rise since the elections of 2020. So I will stop there in the event you have a question or something, sir.
Okay, Miss Spearman. First of all, I do realize that everybody have a opinion, even those who disagree with yours. Is their opinion, and when you ask a person for their opinion, then it's their opinion. And so I didn't see anything wrong with what you thought or what you said, because I have seen that quite often lately exercise. It used to be where people were calling concede, but now they are contesting. Uh, he- Let me ask you a question, because it's been a great deal of talk about the NAACP and the SCLC not interjecting themselves into what is taking place in the county commissioner district 5 and what happened in those the race and the results. Let me ask you, what would warrant uh the NAACP to get involved in a race or a matter between two African Americans? What would warrant you to interject yourself into something such as this? Is there anything?
Let me say that, of course, all of the units of the NAACP operate under the auspices of the president, the state party, the state chair of the NAACP. And we would, of course, between if there were a need to intervene or interject in a race that involved two African Americans, I surely would have to hold a serious discussion on the meeting with at a meeting that we hold every week. So I would believe that there would have to be some kind of allegations of lack of voter access. A person was not able to vote, African American. An African American person was not given the correct ballot and was not given a ballot that would they could have cast provisionally, which is really what they do if there's some mishap and the person lets them know. But the NAACP does not endorse candidates, nor do they engage or indulge in partisan politics, Republicans versus Democrats. And our system is basically a two-party system. Although there are other smaller uh, political organizations, we're basically Democrats and Republicans in this
Right.
country. And most, I'm not saying all, most African Americans are Democrats. We're seeing that erode somewhat because you're seeing the Republican Party recruit African Americans because
Mm.
the party is so lacking. So we would have to do uh, a serious investigation to determine if anybody's voting rights were affected at all, if there was any kind of injustice carried out. We get forms that we have on election day that we use NAACP persons who are assigned use to record any incidents at voting sites with African Americans in particular. We are to use those forms to report these problems: no access, wrong ballot, improper behavior at a voting site that affected your right to cast your ballot. We have those forms and they are submitted to the state party. No one has submitted anything such as that, and I have not been able to determine, because people can say anything. You
Right.
can say, I didn't get the right ballot. Did they correct it? Did they then give you the correct ballot? If they did, what is your damage except that you first got the wrong one?
Right.
If you got the wrong one, if the behavior was corrected at the time, you have suffered no damage because
Mm-hmm.
your vote is then cast probably provisionally. And
Right.
that's what we watched on last Tuesday. I was there, not
Okay.
Tuesday, whichever day it was. I was there
That
when the
Monday. It was that
oh,
Monday.
okay, it was that Monday after I returned. I had left town, so I was there when
Okay.
the provisional ballots were counted. So there is no allegation that you didn't. They didn't take your ballot. They threw it away or something. So I would say those are the kind of things that I believe the NAACP or any other organization that is existing to protect the voting rights of people, and certainly the integrity of the election is important. But I doubt that that is the role that the NAACP would see itself in, protecting election integrity by doing what? The way we would do it is to ensure that you were not denied your right to vote, access to the ballot, and that would be something that would make sense.
Right. And like you're saying, because we want to make it clear, you as president, you want to make sure everybody uh, was not denied. Not there's not one person that was denied the right to vote, and so you and I agree with that. Um, don't know of anybody that was denied the right to vote, and I've heard news of that. And if they was given the right to vote, would the person that they're heavily favored and wanting to win so bad have received the votes? So, do you think it's bigger than what they're making it out to be?
That what is bigger, the county council race or
Or the complaint, or what are reasons for even voicing what they saying, people not receiving uh a ballot at first, or giving the wrong ballot or whatever. Because what people, I know that they were saying the registrar's office did not notify the people who was in the lines and outside the lines. uh but even if you was not notified that you were no longer in District 5, or if you was in District 5, all you would be able to do is vote or not vote. So that would not have changed the election.
and I'm sorry, but I agree with you. I believe it's being made bigger. I believe what I said, that there are candidates such as the past president who cannot accept losing.
Mm,
Now, there are some of those candidates, white Republicans, who are really driving these challenges because it is mostly them. And the NAACP said that when I presented at our meeting on the Wednesday that I was required to by the president. Now, they have every right. Everybody has every right to challenge whatever they want. But white Republicans are really challenging it because there is one gentleman who lost by one vote. But, at another time, you win by one vote, you still win. They do offer possibilities for challenge when there's a race that you have, if you're within a certain percentage and the win is so close that you can ask for a recount. Those kind of things. We know that exist.
Right.
But most of these challenges are with white Republicans, and that's when the Democratic Party is in chaos. And they were, from all reports and the video that was sent to me, that the meeting was chaotic. A lot of disagreement. There's a lot of divisiveness going on. And you hear of people, I know you've read the phrase many times, rhino. This was brought to my attention. RINO, Republican in name only. Republicans are concerned about that. So they
Mm,
are challenging quite a bit. But what has come up lately in these political scenarios is, I guess you would call it Dino or
mm.
Dino, Democrats in name only.
Oh,
That
wow.
is now being pushed because it's a grave concern. I have learned of this from very high levels that supersede the local party. So there is concern and looking at, even in this race, this council race here in Gadsden, Alabama, there's concern and discussions being had about Democrats, it being Democrats in name only. So right now, those challenges are Republican driven. It's
So let me ask you this.
yes, sir.
So do you have a statistics of, and since 2020, how many is it all Republicans that's doing the challenging of the elections, or have you seen what Democrats have been doing a lot of challenging in the election? Do you know
I,
a percentage of that, or do you feel like that's just a part of their playbook that when they don't win, they challenge?
I don't have, I will say quite frankly, I don't have the statistics. I don't know how many persons who call themselves Democrats have challenged. I don't know the numbers for the Republicans. I shall say that I read a number of newspapers, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Birmingham News, Gadsden Times, sometimes Montgomery, St. Louis Post Dispatch, many. And these, what I see is based upon these articles that I quote from because others publish the waves of challenges, and these are all stemming from voter fraud allegations, every state in the union. Now, I haven't looked at that, but that's something I will do now that you've asked me that question, just so I can be aware of it. So I don't know, but well, I think I answered your question, unless
Right.
there was more to it, unless you have more to ask me, and I didn't give
So
you
so
what you.
when you say Democrat in name only, that there are people that's running as a Democrat, that what you're saying, that is actually a Republican, but they see a win, they feel like they can win in a Democratic race, but they're actually, because I remember when I was growing up, and I never will forget this. Man, I never will forget this. This man, I never knew what type person he was, but his name was very popular, Richard Shelby. I never
Yeah.
will forget. He switched parties after he won an election. And that blew my mind. I was in school then. I was in like high school when he did
Mm-hmm.
it. And I was like, I asked my dad, Dad, can he actually do that? He was like, yeah, son, he can do it. But he switched parties after he won his election. So talk to
Well,
me about
this can happen, And people switch parties all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's really prominent for me is when my brother is Billy Harris, when he became councilman, I flew down for his swearing in. I was here, my sister and I. I was living in St. Louis. And I remember the people who swore him in. I had good relationships with them because I always came home. When I moved here in 2016, it was the shock of my life that I knew those people as Democrats, but they are now Republicans. And
Mm.
these are people that I met that swore him in. They were all at the swearing in, very likable people. They still are, but they have switched parties. So it happens. Now, I don't know of anyone African American who has been an open and notorious Democrat that changed to a Republican. I know of no such person. But
Mm-hmm.
what is circling in the community that I find is stunning, that if I can hear it, I suppose anyone can, that a lot of some Democratic candidates are being funded by Republicans. Now,
Mm.
does that make you a Dino or Dino, a Democratic name only, when all of your supporters and you have a great funding stream from Republicans? Does that make you a Republican in fact, although not in name? That is something that the Democratic Party is going to have to take a look at, pay more attention to, because it is not discrimination of any sort. It's your right to be affiliate yourself with whatever political party you so desire. That's your right. But the party has a right to question whether you are running under this rubric and representing the ideals and the promises that Democrats are representing. They have to determine whether the candidates and their officers and people are actually doing what the party stands for.
Mm. Bishop T, you've been mighty quiet. Let need to hear
I'm
from you.
I'm listening. I mean, it's the climate that we're in. I agree. You know, a win is a win, a loss is a loss. And it's the climate that we're in that now it you feel like you have to contest um these elections. I don't know how we combat that. Um, but and I think that you because something you said, you did not say, you didn't call the person Trump, but it was a Trump move.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing now. So um Miss Spearman,
Read that Miss Kimball have on there for Miss Spearman.
can you elaborate on what the possible issues are that should concern Democrats about candidates who run as Democrats are Dinos? Dinos. That's what she said, Dinos.
Well, I probably can't say very much more than I've said, but I will now say this. I don't know how they measure the Democratic Party will measure whether a person is a Democrat. Now, those persons who decide to run for office and they go to the Democratic Party and say, I want to run, I'm going to run as a Democrat. It would be the party's responsibility then to ask them critical questions. What do you stand for? Look at how long they've been in the Democratic Party and what they've done. Look at what office they want to run for. Look at whom their supporters are. Look at whom their supporters are. Look at their finance stream. Before the party would endorse someone to run under its label, they need to be assured that that is what the person is going to do. And I would not know, I don't believe you can judge a person by their friends, because I saw the Republican Party do that to a lady that was running, and it was a white lady that they declared was really a Democrat
Mm,
because she had Democratic friends, and her family had Democrats in it. Well, I spoke about that in my column. It was ludicrous. You can't say that because a person has Republican friends, or that if Republicans have Democratic friends, that they're one another. That's why it's up to the party to look deeper at the
right,
situation, not
right,
based on friendship. Because I have Republican friends, I have quite a
right,
few, as a
right.
matter of fact, probably as many as I have that are Democrats. I have some Democratic friends, and I wonder, why are you even here? Because you don't sound Democratic to me. You, sa- if you are gauging people upon your view of what a Democrat is and what a Republican is, it's a matter of personal opinion, certainly. You make your own choices. That's the
Right,
whole name of having your own vote, your own thought. You can judge people in the manner in which you see fit, but the party has to go deeper than that and look at not just whom the possible candidates' friends are, but who is funding their campaign. If you have a Democratic candidate who comes forth, I want to run under the Democratic banner. Oh, how much money do you have? Well, I have $29,000. Oh, we need to know the source of your funds. If you've got 29,000 and you didn't put it in there yourself, have you already been fundraising? Did this come from the public, the general public? Because you have to file reports about your finances. So
true.
the Democrats, in order to determine this before you're allowed to run under that campaign banner, they need to start looking deeper. But I think they will.
But let me ask you this, Miss Spearman. If you're gonna look deeper on one, if you're gonna use a microscope or a magnifying glass to try to look deep into one of the candidates, don't you think it's fair to look into the other?
Oh yes, I didn't say look into one. I think
Right. I
everybody.
understand. I
I
understand.
believe everyone should be looked at
Okay.
because we are.
And I
It's
understand that,
turbulent
Miss
times
Spearman.
now.
And the
Mhm,
reason why I asked that question is
mhm.
because, we hear on some shows that they bash in one candidate, but when you bring up the issues that people have with the other candidate, that doesn't matter. Oh, they could have got some money from them too. Did he ask for money from them too? It's like you downplay things when it comes to one, but then you want to be nitpicky when it comes to the other. And you saying you're doing all of this in the name of fairness, which we all know that is not true. I mean, even the bashing and the attack of you on the particular radio show, was because it didn't sound like it was in favor of the very one that they supported. Anybody that don't sing the same song or sing in harmony with what they're singing in, if something wrong, they have lost focus of truly what it is. They shouldn't do this, they dare not to do that, and they should resign from their position, all because we don't sing the same song that they sing. But if you're going to be honest and true, let's be honest and true. If you're going to fine tune or use a a scope or a magnifying glass on one, use it on the other. And if you're gonna call white white, then call white white. If you'll call black black, call black black. But you can't sweep one under the rug if you ain't sweeping the other under the rug. My whole
Sir,
thing
I
is
completely agree with you.
my whole thing is, Miss Spearman, and I know you're over the NAACP, and of course you wrote your column that the division in our community is not good. That's one thing that I want us to get away from, dividing our community. We're not coming on here every Thursday trying to bring division. We're trying to bring unity in our community. And there are just some people that appear to be dividing the community, bringing a black woman or a black man down or dogging them out because they're in office and you don't like what they're doing, to me is dividing our community. You can't say you're a leader in our community, but you'll go along with the wrong or you support division in our community. We need to bring unity in our community by any means necessary. Unity.
I, sir, completely agree with you. And let me say this, because you brought that up regarding, I think that people, the only way we're going to start with unification is if people start turning around and looking at themselves. It is very difficult because we don't have a bona fide African American leader who, quote, leads the African American community. There are no Dr. Martin Luther Kings anymore, and who are spending their life marching and going to jail and stomping. We did that. I, in fact, went to jail, and here, right here in Gaston, stayed 11 days. So I know uh, what it means to have unity in the community. But the way things have evolved, you're not going to have everybody has a need to be out front.
Mm,
Everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wants to be the go to person. But what do you do to deserve that? People are not
mm,
listening to you because you're coming from a personal perspective. It's what I want, what I believe. And if you don't like my candidate and you're not supporting them, I will do everything I can to trash you and bash you, no matter your history. But what I'm saying is that is happening. It is going to continue until people who do that are held accountable. People cannot just get on the radio, get on television, and say any and everything they please about somebody. There is accountability. People need to look at themselves first and say, why am I doing this? Uh, get out of that crab in the barrel mentality.
mm,
One crawl up, can't get nowhere because another crawls up and pulls them down back into the barrel. You will see this over and over because people are selfishly motivated. They're not about what is good for the community, what's good for the people. It's about what I want. You see that I'm in charge, I influence you. You listen to what I say. And The only way that it could further be combated, bringing the community together, is if the community itself make a decision about whom they want in leadership, not because you ran and got in front of the parade.
Mm.
You have to make a decision. There can be more than one radio station in Gadsden. There can be a television outlet here. There can be another newspaper. There can be active people who are not castigated because they don't walk your walk and talk your talk. People need to look within themselves and within the community and see what resources they can bring to bear to have more than one outlet.
Right.
They need to make those who are have those the great responsibility of getting information out to the public. They need to make sure they're held accountable. The FCC can do that. If you see something, you have to do something.
Mm. Right.
Mrs. Spearman, let me ask this because this is something that I wonder and that I thought about. All of these contested races that we have, or the way candidates are, not accepting the losses. Do you feel that uh is going to have, well, not going to have, do you feel that has a negative effect on the democratic process, and that it is doing damage to that process?
As a member, and I'll say it as a member of the Democratic Party, yes, I do. I believe that it is really assisting in the breakdown within the organization itself. And people can argue, holler, stomp, walk up and down, do and say what you please. The fact of the matter is, when you look at the numbers that make up the Democratic Party, you see a sharp decline. The president of the state chapter last Wednesday at our meeting, of course, we don't have copies of it, and I believe I will ask for a copy. He posted, starting with, I can't remember which year, but it was before 2020. He posted the number of Democrats voting, and I believe it was Alabama. If you see how low this has gone, it would shock you. So there is something wrong, and there is something that needs to be done, and it's got to be done by those who profess to be Democrats, because what they're doing is divisive. The way that it's being done, and the arguing and the screaming and fussing. Uh, One person indicated that they had supported an alleged Democratic candidate. That candidate was supposed to support them, but the candidate went and supported a Republican. So you have to depend upon the integrity and the moral standards of those who seek office. And when they come seeking and want to run, in this case, under the Democratic banner, the Democrats need to be assured of what they're getting. That's
Did
my
that
response.
is that your the answer? Did that answer your
Did I
question?
answer you?
Yeah, yes, you did. I think so. My concern is how this affects that whole process, that the legitimacy of elections and our voting process. So yes, it does. I understand.
Are you saying, Bishop, the Democratic way, or
The
are we
democratic process.
Democratic
The
process as a whole?
as a
will these
whole, not
contesting affect that?
right. The continual tear down, because every election something can't be wrong with, okay, just like the 2020 presidential election, the number of people who feel that process was fraudulent. And I know they put emphasis on the Democrats, and say the Democrats stole the election or whatever. But I'm saying that whole process that we have in place for you to have the for you to vote is what I'm saying. Is you understand what I'm at? You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. So
The pretty much the democratic way that I'll vote
right,
one person, one vote. And that should count for something versus I'm arguing that something was done wrong and things getting overturned because I feel like something was done wrong. And so the way we've done it in the past is pretty much getting done away with because all I got to do is contest it, and then it can be overturned. That what you're saying?
right. And when we talk about when we talked about the insurrection on January the 6th, how these things are affecting that democratic process or the confidence that we have in that. You already hear people say, my vote's not going to count or my vote doesn't matter. And here we are now with it's not like, and Ms. Spearman said something. The question was asked about NAACP and let's say SCLC getting involved. What does that what warrants them getting
Mm-hmm.
involved? And she said, she made the statement, when it comes to people's rights being
Mm-hmm.
infringed, where they're being kept from voting,
Right.
not because I just I didn't win. I wanted to win, so I feel like I think the more that takes place and these contested elections that we find ourselves in, is that whole process, that ability to
In jeopardy.
participate, to vote.
Is it in jeopardy?
Right. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking. Are we look? What are we? What if we continue along this path? What is that whole process one day or eventually going to look like? I guess is what concerns me um with
Well,
that.
I think you have every right to have that as a concern, and I think that you're on target in being concerned because it will help you to talk to other people who may have this view that it doesn't matter, my vote won't matter because uh, I don't know if it'll count, and all they're going to do is if one person loses, they're just going to contest it, here to be overturned. Now I got to go vote again, or what? So it can have a chilling effect, which is what we call it in the law. It can have a chilling effect upon your willingness to continue to participate in the political process. That's why, of course, everyone, if you're a candidate and you believe that wrongdoing has occurred, you believe there has been some true and sufficient evidence that something wrongful has occurred, you have every right to contest that, and
Mm-hmm.
you should. But to just fling it out there, I think that yes, that will eventually have an impact upon people wanting to participate because they get sick of all of this political rhetoric, infighting, and people really seemingly want to be in office for the wrong reasons. So all
Bishop.
of it has
Yeah.
an effect on our process, and you're very right to be concerned, and I commend you for that because it will help you in talking to other people to try to keep people on path. Don't give up. Your right to vote is precious. People have died for this right, so it helps in that way.
Bishop, go ahead.
Lacey Robinson's comment is along the lines that I was going, that dictatorship. And that's what it, I think that we have suffered more than we were really come to terms with as a result of the tenure of President Trump, if I can say that. I think that we have suffered more than we even may realize right now or even recognize right now, because it does seem that, as he said, that dictatorship form of government we're heading to, and so it just concerns me, that we just where we are, just
Right.
and how fast things have seemed to seemed to be changing or have changed in just the short in just those, maybe I don't want to even say it was coming, because to me it seems like politics also has turned so ugly.
Yeah. Very ugly. Which politics have always been. There's always some dirty politics somewhere,
Yeah,
and there's always
and some
people who
negativity.
choose to use dirty politics. Um, Now, I think what they would want to see happen is the whole election be done all over again, which you can always go bus more people to the polls the next time, but I think they spoke the first time. And if anybody, I'll agree with Miss Spearman and with you, Bishop T. Anybody that was turned away from the poll, that was not
Had
given the opportunity to vote, deserves to vote. And I don't care what side I stand on. I think anybody that went to the poll to vote and was refused to was turned away from the poll and was not given an opportunity to vote deserves to vote. Now, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Do I think the outcome would remain the same? I do. I think it'll be an argument and it'll go on and on and on until they finally get what they want. And that is for her to be victorious. So I just think that I don't know what's going to take place, but I know this is further dividing our community, and we don't need division in our community. We need to be unified. We must get involved and become a part of the process. Join the local Democratic committee. Make sure our family members are registered to vote and that they make it to the polls. I think it was, they said 1,200 people showed up to vote, so it wasn't that many people. And then with the provisional ballots, it was a total of 7. 4 was for her, 3 was for him. So uh
So
Richard
I
Hart is
believe that.
listening. My daughter Epiphany gave me the link so I can listen here in Battle Creek, Michigan. Thank you for listening. Miss Spearman, you was going to say something?
Oh, I was simply uh, pretty much going to echo what you were saying, but that's not what African Americans or any Americans signed up for when you have finally gotten your right to vote. Your right to vote is strictly that. It's yours.
Mm-hmm.
And always there will be Pied Pipers. There will be people leading people or attempting to lead them in the direction in which they want them to go. There will always be people supporting one candidate or the other. That is everybody's right. But no person has a right to castigate another person because they do not support whom you support or don't want your candidate to hold public office. It
Mm-hmm.
is an individual decision, which is why we have in this country one man, one vote. You can't vote for me, and you can try to influence me by telling me your point of view, but it doesn't mean your point of view is acceptable to me, nor does it mean that it is the right point of view. It means that it is yours.
Mm-hmm. You're
And
right.
I agree with what you said.
So
But
we
you can't let an election become what a small group of people just say is this particular candidate. You can't let what that candidate and the supporters want to be the outcome. It has to be a correct outcome that takes into account all of the people who voted in within that district. Those who did not, if you say you were not able to vote, you need to say that by sworn affidavit, and you need to be put under oath so that you can't just say you didn't get to vote. You must give it under testimony so that you can be held accountable for what you say.
right. Well, Miss Spearman, we thank you for joining us on tonight. We know you have had a long day, and you also was given a very short notice, and you accept to come on in a very small notice. You've been very busy today, and we thank you for all you do, all you've done, and all you will do, and all you're doing. So we thank you for coming on and being a part of Real Talk and sharing your opinion and with us and why you see things the way you see things. And we
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome.
And you all keep up the good work and keep informing the community in both ways, the negative and the positive. That's what balances it out. You're not trying to convince them to think your way. You're showing that, as with everything, there are two sides. So I appreciate you all taking the time to do that.
All right. Well, you have a
Thank you.
wonderful night.
Thank you. You do likewise.
All right. All right. We want to thank Miss Spearman for coming on. We was expecting to have Mr. Pastor Stephen Hoyt with us on tonight, but he's currently vacationing and unable to join us on tonight. So we will reschedule because we would love to hear
Definitely.
what this seasoned politician, pastor, will have to say concerning the things that are taking place in our city. Again, we want to be unified people. We want to be unified. We want to speak positive things. We don't want to tear people down, regardless of if we agree with their politics or not. We definitely want to be a show that bring you real information. That's why we bring people on and allow them to speak for themselves. But we definitely want to keep you informed and trying to unify our community because it's funny how we can divide so easy. We can divide so easy, and we're slow to come together. We're slow to come together. So it's been a great show. I want to thank again Mr. Tony Reddick for coming on and sharing with us about the incident that took place in one of our local schools. And we want to thank Ms. Spearman for coming on. Both came on at a short time frame. And so we thank you for joining us as always. Thank you all for joining us as always. We will not be on next week, but we will be on the following week. And so we thank you for joining us. Bishop T, you have anything you want to share with everyone?
Very informative show tonight. Um, and I know we look forward to Pastor Hart coming on and sharing with us. Um, and as we really end the show tonight, and as we are going day to day, I say, let us continue to keep, let us continue to keep our school system in our prayers. You know, when things happen, we're quick to say it's prayer time. It's prayer time all the time.
That's
And I
right.
know it's not church, but the Bible says pray without ceasing.
That's
And
right.
so we want to continue to pray, and especially for those administrators, those leaders, the staff, the teachers who are, I know I've been an educator, and you have other people's children at your hands, especially for superintendents, Mr. Reddick, you know, and with the climate the way it is, the way things are happening, I know that that has to be stressful. And so I just, as we leave, we keep our school system, from our superintendent to our children, on our hearts and minds daily, with prayer, as well, and understand that we're praying. But today was an example, exemplified the fact that they are doing what needs to happen in the physical as well. So very informative show, and thank both of our guests for coming on, as you said, in such short notice, as well as. But that's the way we move. Sometimes we have to move that way based on what's
Of
taking
course.
place. We planning to do one thing and have to shift because it is we desire to make sure that our viewers, as well as this community, is informed and reassured in whatever area that needs to happen. So thank them for coming on. Good, glad to be on with you tonight as always. And so we look forward definitely to hearing from Mr. Hoyt. We were able to share with him a little bit and pray his safety, but we were able to share with him a little bit. And you said it, he is seasoned, and I believe we're going to hear some good information as it relates to pulling our community together and unifying us, us making a unified front. Because definitely, now here's the thing: there are some days coming where we're gonna have to unify,
Yeah.
and we're going. And I hope people will hear me when I say this: we're not only going to have to unify amongst ourselves, but we're gonna have to unify beyond racial boundaries or ethnic boundaries. We're going to have to come together, and especially we as a people need to be unified. And so we look forward to hearing from him.
Yeah. Well, all right,
Thank you
Bishop.
for coming on tonight too.
Thank every one of you for coming on. Thank every one of you. A house divided against itself will not stand. So we
Will
got
not.
we got to be unified, and then call out the very ones that bring in the division. You know, just call it out. So we're going to go, and until next time, everyone have a blessed night.